and the gap between you and those seniors will start to close. Right? And then all of a sudden you cross this threshold where you start to look like a really good deal to studios. If you tried to make this, what would be your biggest challenge?
I guess the main challenge as well for me is just in terms of getting the higher resolution textures and the right lighting for the scenes. Because I think those are the parts that I know that sometimes can be a bit of a struggle for me, but I know that I am capable of it. It's just maybe it's a little bit more on the overwhelming for me sometimes.
Is that the type of work that you want to do? Are those the types of problems that you want to solve?
I believe so because that's the thing when I look at this footage and I look at these images, I'm like mesmerized by all of the beautiful details in them and the way that it looks organic and realistic, and I can feel like I can even immerse myself in it, even if I wanted to make a VR version of this environment, which would be pretty awesome. But all encompassing, it's like using my technical problem solving and kind of dissecting each individual element and object into its components and then compiling them together like a puzzle or like a Lego set is kind of appealing to me as well. And no, of course, all encompassing, knowing that everything I do would then be incorporated in an official game that can be shared with the masses.
Yes, but what a huge ambition. What's stopping you?
All right. Well, I guess aside from all of the things that I've mentioned, the only other major blockage is just kind of coordinating the times in my days and weeks because and more specifically in a healthy way because there has been many times where I would be kind of working for hours on end and lose track of time and in many ways neglect other things in my life. But aside from that, when I am focused, it's also making sure I also don't get overly distracted, and that I do basically segment that specific time just strictly for the art and for finding the reference images and textures, et cetera, and materials. Um, and then really just making sure, I guess, my hardware uh, uh, can keep up with that. But at least recently, my hardware has been sufficient enough to do so.
Time management. Right?
Right.
It's basically time management.
Exactly.
Work inflates to meet the time that you give it. So it's like, okay, so how do we assign a value of time to this work that is going to accommodate all the things that need to happen, but not give you so much room that you're going to lag and fill? So I like month-long projects. If we could get it down to 2 weeks, that would be better. If we could get it down into 1 week, that would be even better. But 1 week to make something like that, that's ambitious, right? But at the same time, if you had 1 week to do it, what would you do? How would you build it out in 1 week? It's like, okay, in order for me to finish it on the seventh day, I need to have effects on day 7. That's where I need to be. On day 6, all the lighting needs to be done. On day 5, all the texturing and shaders need to be done. On day 4, I need to have all the unwrapping done. On day 3, I need to have all the modeling done. On day 2, I need to probably have all of my reference and all of my design work done. And on day 1, I need to have, all the software that I need to get started. Every little thing, every update, every whatever nonsense that I need to have. That's what I need to do. So if I told you you've got 7 days to complete this project, Misha, that's how you should schedule it out. You should take day 7 and say what it needs to happen, day 6, what needs to happen, all the way back until today. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, it's day 1. Oh shit, I've got to get software. I've got to get a head start on the model. I got to get a head start in the design. I got to gather references because I only got 1 day to do this phase. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden it kicks you into gear. So what will happen is if you say, hey, I want 4 weeks to make this environment very similar to that guy. Well, that dude's a senior artist. He's great. His stuff is really good. He's probably been doing stuff like that for years. I don't
Yeah.
think, even with his stuff as reference, that somebody is going to just be able to start a project and in 3 weeks be able to match that work. His is probably still going to be better than yours. And that's good news. You start to notice, oh, you know what? They are better with these types of models. Their proportions are better. Their textures are more unwrapped, a little bit more scaled in a more appropriate way. Whatever, you'll start to notice the differences between your work and their work. And then when you start a new month-long project the next month, then you'll start it again. You give yourself that time. You work out from the deadline all the way back to the day that it is
Mm.
today. And then you start, but you learn from the mistakes you made on the last one. And then January
Right.
goes by, February goes by, March goes by, April goes by. You got 4 banging demo reel projects, each one better than the last. And the gap between you and those seniors will start to close.
Mm.
Right. And then all of a sudden, you cross this threshold where you start to look like a really good deal to studios.
Yeah.
They start to go, oh, wow, this person is it's solving these problems that we have, and they're probably quite affordable, and they seemed good in the interview. Like we should hire them. And the thing is,
Mhm.
you might get 10,000 no replies and 1,000 rejections and 500 failed art tests, right? But the moment you start to eclipse that value line where your work is starting to become more valuable than what it would cost to pay you, then it floods. Everyone wants to hire you at once. It's like
Okay.
you can go years with like you can go a year of not having a job opportunity, and then on the 366th day you get like 3 offers that week. That's exactly how it
Yeah.
goes, because all of a sudden everyone realizes at the same time that you're worth it.
Yeah, that
But you
makes
gotta
sense.
you gotta get to that threshold though.
Right. That
So
makes sense.
pick that reference art and do a damn fine job of managing your time in order to achieve the things that they achieved by a certain time limit, and then post it and move on. If you got to 80%, you got to 80%. Try better next time and hit it again in February.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. And maybe another thing I would just quickly to wrap up, but I was thinking another motivation for me is maybe I should have like a type of reward for myself at the end of my deadline, because I think that will motivate me more, because sometimes even if I set a deadline without a reward, it's just going to kind of like,
That's very self-aware. That's very
yeah,
smart. That's how people work, is with those
yeah,
rewards. Hey, I gotta jet. I'm gonna go into alpha.
yeah.
See
All
you
right.
there.
I'll see you in there.
All right.
Thanks.
No worries.